Tapescript 11.31.4.
My neighbor Levan told me about an experience he had had last year. He said that he had been riding his bicycle home at about 7 p.m. Then suddenly, the shadow of a bird had flown in front of him. He had thought that he had run it over. When he had gotten off his bicycle to look at it, he had received a big surprise. There had been nothing lying in the road. Later, a policeman had walked up and listened to Levan's story. He had told Levan about a minor bird that had died in that area. Levan said the policeman's eyes had gotten really big, and in a scary voice, he had told Levan he wasn't the only person who had seen a ghost there. Levan said he had become frightened and cried that it was Avong.
I overheard Mr. Sawan and Mrs. Mom while I was working at the Chinese restaurant. Mrs. Mom asked Mr. Sawan if he had done anything interesting in the past week. He told her he had gone for a walk in the jungle and it had been very hot. She asked him what he had done to cool down. He told her that he had found a tree that had a huge hole in it. He said the hole turned out to be a big cave and he had crawled into it. Mrs. Mom asked him if it had been dark in there and he told her had been, but that he had also found a river inside. He said that he had swum through the cave into another cave. She asked him if he had been in there for a long time and if he had been frightened. He told her he had been in there for about 3 hours, and at the beginning of his exploration, he hadn't been frightened, but as he had remained in there and swum deeper into the caves, he had become very frightened. He told Mrs. Mom with a laugh that when he had been able to see the sun and trees again, he had let out a loud cheer.
My friend Sam, who lives in the United States, told me this story about time he had experienced his first earthquake. He told me he had been at his desk doing his homework when the earthquake had started. He said the chair he had been sitting in had started to move across his room. I asked him what he had done. He said that when the floor had stopped moving, he had run out to find his mother. She had been in the kitchen cooking when the earthquake had started. He said he had found her standing in the front of the cooker and she had told him that she hadn't felt anything. Sam said that they had decided to look outside and see if there was any damage to anything. He told me that they had seen some trees that had fallen and had heard some sirens in the distance, but it hadn't been a very bad earthquake. Sam said he had seen on the news that he had only measured 5.5. He said the news also had said that although the hospitals had been busy that evening, no one had died.
End of Tapescript 11.31.4.